meeting of the East Greenwich School Committee. Will you please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, and so unless there's a concern on the part of any member of the school committee or the public, I'd like to reorder the agenda just a little bit so that we can go ahead and officially greet our guest, Dr. Ken Wagner. I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Mercurio, who will introduce the commission. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the public. We're delighted to welcome Commissioner Wagner to East Greenwich on what appears to be the second stop of his nationally recognized Excellence in Rhode Island Schools tour. Yesterday, the Commissioner was in Cumberland celebrating Principal Teniero's well-deserved recognition as National Principal of the Year. And this evening, Commissioner Wagner is able to join us at the beginning of our meeting as we recognize Cole Middle School's National Blue Ribbon School Accolade recognition. So it's wonderful for you to be here and join us this evening. Members of the public, members of the committee will forgive me if I borrow heavily from the biographical sketch posted on RIDE's website. Commissioner Wagner began his tenure at the department this past summer. Prior to his arrival in Rhode Island, Dr. Wagner served in diverse roles within public education in New York State, including being elected to his local school committee at age 18. Those of you that thought you started early. He started his professional career as a school psychologist, providing counseling and crisis services and conducting violence prevention training for all staff members. He later served as an assistant principal and then middle school principal in the Shore-and-Wading River School District on Long Island. He joined the New York State Department of Education in 2009 and most recently served as Senior Deputy Commissioner for Education Policy, responsible for the overall operations for elementary, secondary, and post-secondary education services. During his time at the New York State Education Department, Dr. Wagner coordinated the implementation of the New York College and Career Ready Learning Standards, as well as the aligned curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional development resources for educators, families, and the public. He has also been in charge of education technology and data collection and management. Dr. Wagner oversaw the development of EngageNewYork.org. That curriculum website has received more than 1 million page views from more than 8 million visitors throughout the world, including many here in this district. I can assure you of that, Dr. Wagner. On a personal note, over the course of the last 2 months, I've had the opportunity to meet with and work with Commissioner Wagner as a member of the Board of School Superintendents Association, and can tell you that the Commissioner has always been willing to listen to the comments, questions, and concerns of our organization, to work collaboratively and constructively to support students across the state. Dr. Wagner, we invited you this evening to help you not only put names and faces together, but to have you gain a sense of how one district, how we go about supporting teaching and learning for our students, not only here, but throughout the course of their work post-secondary. The building in which we find ourselves this evening is a beautiful one, and it represents years of collective and collaborative hard work on the part of all members of the community, and in particular, its two representative bodies, the East Greenwich School Committee and the East Greenwich Town Council. I should relay regrets of President Isaacs, who's the Town Council President, who could not be here this evening. He has a prior commitment, but certainly sends his best wishes to you. The 6 schools that comprise this district benefit greatly, I can assure you of that, 6 years plus that I've been here, from the thoughtful leadership of the 2 elected bodies and the unwavering support of the members of this community. We're honored that you're here with us this evening, and we look forward to working with you to support the achievement of not only the students in East Greenwich, but throughout the entire state. So welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for the great work. As you mentioned, I started my career in public education as a school committee in New York. They're called school board members, and it is incredibly challenging work, but just so incredibly important. So I thank you for your service, and congratulations to the entire school community for the Blue Ribbon designation. It's not an easy designation to earn, and you've done great work to get there. You mentioned supporting teaching and learning, and I think that's exactly the right focus. All of us, each of us, should be just focused on how we individually and collectively can support the teaching and learning that has to happen in our schools. And I don't matter except to the extent that me in my role can support actual teachers and actual students in actual classrooms across the state and really just help move that work forward. And I would submit that each of us has that kind of role, that we need to be humble in our service to support for teaching and learning. And we need to wake up in the morning thinking of it that way and close the day at the end of the long day thinking about what we've contributed to that. We've got a lot of work that has been identified collectively across Rhode Island. We went through a very creative strategic planning process over the past 6 to 12 months. And collectively, you folks have told us, RIDE and my team and I, what you think is important to move forward in the state for the next 5 years. And what we've been doing over the last 2 months is pulling out of that framework document, the strategic plan, the kinds of things that we're going to talk about most often. What are some of the themes that we extracted from the strategic plan document to articulate into specific actions over the course of the next year? One thing that jumped out very strongly, particularly in Rhode Island, is the idea of personalizing instruction to align with the individual cluster of interests of an individual student. And that takes on many different forms. A lot of people are really excited by some of the blended work that's being done, but it's not just blended work. In some ways, it's really just deep and good instruction. How do you find the particular way to engage with a student? And we know that learning is just so much more rapid, and it just sticks so much more if you kind of capture the interest of the students that you're working with. So we really want to focus on what personalized learning looks like, whether it takes the form of experiential learning, project-based learning, service learning, social emotional approaches, all of that cluster of just best practices. We've heard that loud and clear. That's going to lead us to taking another look at our current graduation requirements. We've heard a lot of questions and concerns about the way the graduation requirements are currently structured, particularly the role that standardized assessments should or should not serve in the graduation requirements piece. So we're going to talk with our council tomorrow night and open up that conversation and to really have a broad level of input so we can think about how to move forward. And I just want to reflect on what the introduction of something like a standardized assessment to a graduation requirement, like what might the goal have been to that process. And my takeaway is that we just want to make sure that when a student leaves high school and goes to apply for a job or goes to apply for college, that the student is perceived by that potential employer or the college admissions people not based on the reputation of the individual school district, because some school districts have a great reputation, some school districts have a less than great reputation. And there's a lot of variability in between, but that we have some way to know that a diploma is comparable across different communities of the state. So if a student from one community goes and applies for a job or a college, they're not prejudged based on the perception of that community. So that's the rationale for the introduction of an assessment. What I want to bring to the conversation is if we really take personalized pathways through high school seriously, then perhaps we can achieve that goal in a way that maintains the original goal but opens up options for students, really expands options for students to demonstrate what they've achieved in their high school diploma. So we look forward to that conversation. We very much got a theme around supporting teachers. What can we do collectively to define the best ways to make sure teachers just get the supports that they need to do just one of the most difficult and complicated jobs in the world? And we really want to have the conversation about what do we have to do to organize time for teachers to collaborate, organize protocols and approaches to make sure teachers have the best tools to do this job. Yesterday, it was just a perfect reminder of the incredibly transformative role of a principal. How a principal can really swing a school in one direction or the other. And it's very, very hard to find a great school without that school being led by a great principal. But principals don't do it on their own, of course. course, they do it in collaboration with their teacher leadership teams. So what does that look like to support and empower principals and teacher leadership teams? And then finally, we as folks who have been thoughtful about education reform for the past 5 or 6 years, we, in my opinion, have collectively made a strategic mistake, which was we did not do the kind of work that we should have done to engage the voice of families and parents in our conversations and in our plans and in our work moving forward. I've learned that. It was a lesson learned in my experience in New York, and what I've learned is if you ignore the parent voice, you do it at your peril, because eventually they will kind of become aware of the kinds of changes that are occurring, and if you did not bring them to the table at the time that you were making those decisions, then there's going to be this inevitable pushback, even if the work that's being done is exactly the right work, but because you didn't build the kinds of coalitions that you folks spoke about in this community. So I am committed personally to make those kinds of adjustments when we lead education work moving forward at a statewide level. We have to find a way to amplify the voice of parents and local communities. Not that there is one voice, of course there's a diversity of perspectives, but right now in Rhode Island, parents tend to be organized at the school level, and we very much want to work together to figure out how to engage with families at a larger regional and statewide level. Last thing is we have, it's often the elephant in the room when I come in and talk with folks, we have the park results that are coming very soon. We anticipate releasing the park results probably the early to mid-November. And it's a really important moment for us in Rhode Island. I think it would be very unfortunate if we spend the rest of the year talking about the park results instead of talking about teaching and learning. The only reason why the results on an annual statewide assessment are important is to the extent that they support or help guide us or give us information about how to support teaching and learning. So I view the release of the park results, and it's going to be a tough process. I mean, we've seen other states release their results based on college and career ready standards, and the percentage of students who achieve at the level that the standards require initially is much lower than any of us would want. Of course, there's differences across communities and so on. So it's going to be a tough moment to see where collectively our students are against college and career ready standards. But that is just a moment, and then we get back to work focusing on teaching and learning and using the information from that assessment to help guide us, move us forward. But it's just one piece of information. So what I've advised the council is we be very transparent in the release of the assessment results, including what they tell us and, quite frankly, what they don't tell us, because we had a sizable percentage of students who did not participate in the test. But then we're very cautious and thoughtful about how we use or don't use those results as we move forward. So I look forward to continuing that conversation, but again, only in the context of how we can advance teaching and learning in our communities across the state. So again, I thank you for inviting me. It's great to get into local communities and not just meet people in the schools. I've gotten around to schools, but really to have the chance to meet community members, family members, and students and so on. And I can certainly stick around for any questions that you might have.
So we did want to take a few minutes in case people do have questions for the commissioner. This is really a wonderful opportunity for our community to get to know our new education commissioner. So I would absolutely invite you to raise your hand, and if you have a question to ask, to go ahead and do so. And if anybody has any trouble hearing people from the audience, we can certainly send the microphone around if necessary. Yes, in the back. Please do introduce yourself so the commissioner knows who's asking the question.
Hi, I'm Chris Bowie. I'm one of the masters at the high school in this district. I'm curious to your stance on county, since we've come from a commission who tied test scores to evaluations and my merit of being a teacher. I am curious to your understanding of our system and how, and your opinions on the test score relating to my being qualified or highly qualified.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. So I start by going back to some of the things I said before. To the extent that we're doing something that supports teaching and learning, I think it's something we're on the right track. We should continue to do it, make it useful, and so on. To the extent that we're doing something that isn't supporting teaching and learning, we should take a look and see how we might want to modify things, tweak things, or drop the policy moving forward. In general, in a teacher evaluation, I feel that we've kind of lost our focus a bit. Now, I'm speaking in general because I'm not as aware of the specific details in Rhode Island. But to the extent that there is a perception or a reality that the evaluation is focused on an algorithm and a percentage that's designed to produce a certain distribution, we've lost our way. So if we find ourselves chasing whether there should be a certain percentage of teachers who are rated ineffective and therefore we've found out that that's where the problem is, to that extent we've lost our way and we should reevaluate our processes. To the extent that the evaluation system allows us to move to a place where there's a better vocabulary and process for talking about professional practice, and a better set of procedures to give meaningful feedback to teachers so teachers can continue to get better, just like we all continue to get better, then we're on the right track and we should continue that. So we should continue to have that conversation. And I've said the exact same thing to the leadership of the two teacher unions in Rhode Island, and I look forward to continuing to talk it through. Well, I got the toughest question already, so the rest should be easy. Well, thank you for the invite, and I look forward. I'm going to stick around for some of the recognitions.
Please do. We have asked the commissioner to stay with us for our recognitions this evening. It's a wonderful photo opportunity. So with that, again, I will turn it over to Dr. Mercurio to introduce our recognitions for the evening.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, you can join me up front. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the public, Commissioner Wagner, several recognitions this evening. First and foremost, I want to take the opportunity to, and while they have several formal recognitions that they have in front of them, I want to take the opportunity to recognize Cole Middle School for being awarded a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. And I can share this with the Commissioner. I certainly am happy to do this. We talk a lot in this community, not unlike others. This is the second community in which I have worked. We talk a lot about high school. And we talk about U.S. News and World Report. And we talk about Newsweek. We talk about metrics for measuring high schools, not unlike what other communities do. But there's no way you can have a terrific high school, and we have a terrific high school, without a terrific middle school. And there's no way you can have a terrific middle school unless you have 4 terrific elementary schools. And we have 4 terrific elementary schools. So for me, it is a wonderful, wonderful accolade, and says volumes about this district that our middle school, the central point of where students gather together for the first time as one class, as it were, moving from grade 5 to grade 6, throughout the rest of their career here at the East Greenwich Public Schools, that we have national recognition for the work that's done here. And as I shared with you before, and I share this every time, I'm sure that the individuals who have to hear me say this all the time are tired of hearing me say it, but I'm going to continue to say it. This building is beautiful, and we're grateful that we have it. It's a wonderful state-of-the-art building. It is not a school until teachers, administrators, faculty, staff, students, community members come here to teach and learn and support teaching and learning every single day. And for that, I can tell you as superintendent, I'm enormously grateful for that. But we don't have any official plaque, because that plaque is waiting somewhere in Washington, D.C. I did want to recognize and offer to to Mrs. Meyer and Mr. Seeger that we have purchased for the school these banners, different school name, we couldn't fix that right away. One for the outside of the school, and one for each of the floors of the middle school. They're on order and should be here shortly. So if you come up, I can give you a sample.
This is on agenda. Would you indulge me to say a word, a personal word? I just, excuse me for interjecting into your awards, but I wanted to say a word of personal thanks to Mr. Seeger and Mrs. Meyer. As the parent of someone who went through this, not this building, the old building, we won't talk about it, and also had the opportunity to be in the building as a mentor on a weekly basis. I just wanted to comment that there is something very special, and I applaud the Blue Ribbon Committee because somehow they must have figured it out. There is and has always been, in my experience, something very special about the Archie Cole Middle School. And that thing that's special is the concern and regard and support of every child in the building. There's a feeling of warmth that happens in this school that I think stems from the leadership and all of the teachers and staff. And I want to say thank you as a parent and as a member of the school committee and as a resident of East Greenwich for all that you've done over the years to set that environment. Thank you.
Our next recognition this evening, the Met Music Awards program is run by the Massachusetts Education Theater Guild. The goal of the awards program is to recognize outstanding performance and production values as displayed by Massachusetts high schools and middle schools during the course of the theater season. Even though Cole Middle School is not located in Massachusetts, the organization has allowed us to join as a member and submit our productions for consideration in the awards program. The Met Musical Awards program sends educators to the shows to evaluate our productions in numerous performance and design categories. I'm pleased to share with you the results to recognize these fine individuals this evening. They are as follows. I always wanted to do the Emmy Awards. This is the closest thing. I love that show. I always wanted to do that. I don't hear any music in the background telling me I'm almost over. So Best Specialty Ensemble, Cole Drama Club, Ali Colston. Best Specialty Ensemble, Noel Salisbury. Best Specialty Ensemble, Sarah Brasini. Best Specialty Ensemble, Katrina Plasiak. Best Specialty Ensemble, Maddie Jenkins. Best Specialty Ensemble, Petronia Smith. Nominated Best Supporting Actress, The Little Mermaid, Emma Tedeschi. Nominated Best Leading Actress, The Little Mermaid, Abby White. Nominated Best Featured Actor, Jackson Morin. The Little Mermaid and Willy Wonka Cole Drama Club, the 2015 Met Musical Award. I guess Mrs. Brasini, if you would come and accept this one. Do we have time for a quick photo before we, past members? Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence are distant seconds, I'm sure.
Hop up there. Don't be shy. Yeah, take it on. Hold it together. These are trained smiles right there.
Our last award in recognition this evening is another very special one. Those of us who are in education, I'm sure the Commissioner would agree, is that teachers take on a variety of different roles. And it's not just being in a classroom. Teachers can be anywhere, they can be anyone, at any place, at any time. And over the last several years, we've seen librarians who are primarily teachers become library media specialists who teach in many different ways, in many different parts of the building, not just in their own space, which they have been charged to make the 21st century come alive in that space. They've also been charged to support teaching and learning and engage students in the learning process in a variety of different classrooms. Our award recipient for Teacher of the Year in East Greenwich is Mrs. Beth Gorder, who's a library media specialist at Hanford Elementary School. And I can tell you that I've never really seen Mrs. Gorder sit still, because she's constantly engaging kids and faculty members in what they need to know and be able to do. You need to know and be able to do to be competitive in the 21st century. I've watched her engage kids with Google Apps for Education in the classroom. I've seen her fret back and forth to try to redesign her own space so that every single student that comes into that space can be engaged fully and can meet their highest potential. So it is an honor and privilege to be able to recognize Mrs. Gorder as the East Greenwich School District Teacher. And our last recognition, Madam Chair, members of the committee, we would be remiss if we did not send the Commissioner home with high quality East Greenwich Public Schools gear. I don't know if Cumberland High School gave you one for the National Principal gear, but you have whole gear from a Blue Ribbon school. So thank you so much for being here. We look forward to working with you. That concludes recognition, Madam Chair.
Again, thank you to Dr. Wagner for joining us this evening. This is the time in the meeting where we welcome everyone to stay.
but invite you to leave if it was not your plan for the rest of the evening. We will continue with the regular school committee meeting just as soon as those who are leaving have had a chance to depart. So thank you all for being here tonight. Okay, so we will go back now to our regular school committee meeting agenda. And I would like to, let me start with public comments. If there are any members of the public that are here tonight who have a comment or concern that you would like to express relating to something that's not already on the school committee agenda, now would be the time to do it. Are there any public comments for this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. I'd like to move next to approval of our minutes. We have regular and executive meeting minutes for September 15th, 2015. I believe all school committee members that are present here tonight were present for both of these meetings, so I don't believe there's any need for any recusals or anything. So I will entertain a motion to accept the regular and executive minutes for September 15th.
So moved.
So moved by Mary Ellen, seconded by Dr. Sun. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Before we move on to the superintendent's report, I do want to just make one note. I have one announcement to make regarding a vote that was taken in executive session at our September 15th meeting. The school committee did vote 7-0 to reject the settlement proposal that was made by the teachers union to resolve the class size grievance arbitration award. The district will be proceeding to Superior Court regarding this matter. Having said that, I will now turn it back over to Dr. Mercurio for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the public. A few things this evening. First, we set up a meeting with Ocean State Transit to work on communication protocols between and among Ocean State Central Office and the individual schools. We'll post these protocols on this week's field memo and under the transportation spot on our website. Secondly, as I referenced a little bit before, I want to formally recognize that October is National Principals Month. I want to take a moment to recognize the building level administrators in this district for all their hard work and dedication to support students, faculty, staff, and their families. Next, I want to thank the high school community for a terrific Spirit Week last week that culminated with a great pep rally, a home football victory, and a dance that was held 1 hour after the power went out and was restored to the area. So it's always a little nerve-wracking when you get a text that says there's no power, we're going to have a dance soon. So I was happy to bring my guitar, but I don't know how that would go over. So I also, next on my report, I wanted to follow up on the survey that I mentioned that we had sent out to faculty and staff regarding their feedback about the academic calendar year, the beginning of the academic calendar year. So we sent that out. We had 56 people who completed the survey. 36 of the 56 felt that we should not start on a Monday. 20 felt that we could start on a Monday. In terms of the positives, and I certainly can share the whole survey to the committee,